No, I'm just more interested in.
Is any of this your background? Is any of this your background?
I got notification from Charles and 5 o'clock, so I was like, okay, I just got home.
These references, you're blind. This is the channel for recent forest.
Okay.
Right, those. I also do those on my YouTube. It's kind of the best one for me. I do post on the blog, but unfortunately, I would like to have a quick video.
Okay.
So it's not like I just get sent.
Yeah, I think that was the invite.
Yeah. So I do also post on the guardrail. So it allows people to like join the community. That's another option, but that's the only.
But
Actually,
there wasn't, I take it there might not have been a lot of shows to this talking about.
Yeah, it wasn't all one.
Okay.
They usually try to do it as soon as. So this is rough. Yeah, some of the signups are how the clown.
Let's give them a bit more time, right?
Yeah. How have you been?
Dude, just so busy.
That's good.
Like ever since South by, it's just like back to back for me.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
So you're getting business. Yeah, a lot of people that teach like quant right now or something like that. It's like a six months to a year window where you can actually like push it and actually make some money on it. After that, you just got the bonus.
Right.
It's busy because I'm really used to everything.
Yeah, you're still doing things to do.
Well, I kind of almost resumed it because of my profile. It's not
Okay. I see.
so that's why I've done
Let me saw.
14th. I got it.
Yeah, I was like,
And
you
then
did
this
one.
one. Yeah, I know.
Wow.
I'm gonna do another one with 12. So I'm pretty sure. Yes.
Oh my gosh. Why are you doing all this driving back and Are you doing virtual or?
I haven't scheduled Houston yet. As a speaker, how I'm gonna do it. But I'm gonna go sit around. Yeah, I haven't like 100% committed to it yet. But I might do it. Just meeting every person as opposed to trying to do that session.
Right.
I mean, again, like, I would like to start bringing concerns out of, let's say, like someone from outside, like someone from outside, but might be hard. This is hard.
You're telling me.
Sometimes the more questions come to join the Austin meetings. How are you? Yeah, perfect. Well done. Beautiful stuff every day. There's fear, there's
No.
do like compositional stuff. Not like a stream. Oh yeah. We do have fun. Have you guys met? Elias,
Twice.
one of the few people.
No, I covered that recently. It was longer than that, but it was about 5 or 6 years. So everyone's been around and been reading. See the people left. So like, first 2 or 3 days, you know, every classic systems, leverage, pains, and just weeks and weeks of constant talking. Makes sense.
So we go on and such like
Yeah, I came up with a program and then I just playing around that with other bits.
yeah, I try to keep it as much.
Fine, fine.
How are you? There's some pizza, there's some good joints, not particular. How are you? I'm Margaret.
Speaker.
Beautiful. Me too.
Welcome.
There's some pizza over here. There's some Hawaiian and chicken and green pepper and pepperoni. Those stickers have Elias channel, ones. What I do usually do is the blue line and the white. I'm talking about blue lines. You cannot create communities. So we're gonna start the presentation on Substrate because we're streaming to our otherwise, but you're welcome to that. I'm Margaret, I'm behind Essentialized. For those of you who do not know me. Yeah.
The computer scares me. I already know.
Oh, the code.
All the different colors.
Yeah. What about yourself?
Friends with Elias. I was in crypto a little while ago. I'm probably gonna get back into it soon. It was pretty deeply broke. I looked to go to pizza joints.
Just to learn.
Okay, what's that?
I'm actually.
I'm Jimmy. So what are you more interested in, AI or crypto?
Me, AI, because that's what I do with my business. But crypto, like learning all about that, that's my thing. What about yourself? Yeah.
He's either your background.
I've done a lot of,
Okay. As mining or as purchasing?
just
It's fair enough. How are you faring right now?
I held up.
That's a great spot.
I hope.
As soon as I remember my seed phrase, I'm gonna be over my face.
Well, with quantum, you know, download enough data out of computer. Break the encryption for people that are not gonna get post-quantum encrypted in time.
How do you decentralize your code?
So I used to co-run another group, like Figure, it's one I was in Houston, and then decided to go on my own because it was becoming more of an AI group than actually watching quantum, and I wanted to add quantum into it. So yeah, so the predominant focus is blockchain and quantum. I'm looking into quantum biology. I'm not holding up down all my relevance of biology, but now I'm heads on like doing marketing. So if I ever figure out this streaming strategy, which is always seems to be a challenge, we're only gonna be able to for that. So it's something I really want to do and probably touch more concrete eventually. Probably do maybe on less on a blockchain, but for now, blockchain is the current obviously. We do have some sessions that encompass quantum. And that's sort of my push too, because ultimately, and like today we have AI. Because sometimes I try to bring complementary technologies as a mindset of converge eventually anyway. So I would like to have more content. The community, even though it exists in Austin, it's very off. There's a big old right, pretty famous in town, and as a
Pretty close out there.
yeah, it's pretty close out there. I mean, there's a
Seattle, San Francisco.
Yeah.
It's very silent.
I tried to invite these 2 of these startups in Austin. I'm planning I tried to invite them this week, but then when I get talk to them,
Yeah.
let alone so I can have a public engagement. So, my hope is that at least maybe in blockchain standpoints, people will be willing to talk about it because the algorithms are getting better and they should be talking about it because the time we're using side. So that's the hope.
Yeah, you make it traction with ZT versus they're really getting so into the molecular physics of everything.
So-
Even in neuroscience, that they're getting down to specific biology.
So I've been
That's right, where you have to start working with quantum mechanics to explain the physics.
So I've been in touch with Mr. Ecker for the last 8 months, since I got here, because the quantum biology sort of is around quantum computing. So actuation and associated and there's not much of it.
Yeah.
I know that you have reached out to me when I'm not aware of the very more serious, and I tried to see if I can do young people like this, I think to the extent where they're technically Susan and others, there is a lot of much involved. So things are happening. Right, but everything is really new because think of quantum biology. Cut down thinking about 1 year ago, it's not necessary. And then they did do the lot. So now it was much more. So I hope that eventually this is both, right? It's not just experimentation, it's also you have to do it funding to get to
Yeah.
measure. And that's kind of hard to hold about that. This package to overall exchange. But that's kind of hard to. One of the counts is like easily over shares. I'm trying to think of what she wants to. Biggest challenge in Austin. And normally I have a separate person for the streaming and for conversing. I haven't done like a reasonable one, so a lot of these people are probably hard to stream, not conversing. Yeah, so last year I actually went to the streaming, so I tried to consolidate it this year. But yes, I was on. And then if someone's, it depends on the speaker. So I did post it. But sometimes, even if not stream, sometimes people really afterwards. I look at after.
It mentioned bacteria. What about quantum features that we're trying to find?
I'm trying to find a light that is so that one is one of the things. Like I said, we are looking at anything from circular rhythm, because a lot of light into the rhythm into the eyes, stimulants, behavior, whatever you like. Also like
This is what I don't know about.
well, I think it's something so well, no, it's really more at least of this structure, right now you'll be like identifying the way that has holding
Yeah. So they're looking at robots. Right. It's going to be a certain level of complexity. You know, they can analyze it, we have some of the platform, they analyze it, and then come up with a platform.
I'm sure that's some of the these junctures more.
Yeah, magnetic simulation.
So they're showing right now is basically that it's a very low magnetic field. And I suppose are and that's maybe again, this is I know that lot of people yeah, let's get to that. But things happen very well. You must really think about government is struggling. It's not just like this level. There's really going on foundation, not foundation, not all grants.
We're live on one stream. Another one's gonna go streaming live at 7. We said 6:30, right? But
It's like 6:30 for in-person.
For in-person.
It's never, like, the problem, now I don't
Then
really
I-
know how to streamline it, when I say 6:30, it can become at 7:30.
Yeah.
So try to stream it at 7, because we don't, well, we have quite a bit of dropping off
There's
otherwise.
kind of a time phenomenon in Austin. They call it musician time.
I know. So first one,
So many
starting
people
at
are on
6.
musician time,
Yeah.
so it's okay for them to be an hour late. It's not a
they won't miss it.
So when I was trying at 6, people were crying that it's, too early, you can have it.
Welcome.
But yeah, there's usually 38 or we keep the sign-ups.
Yeah, we had a lot of signups this time.
I think I'm gonna go to 75. Why did you guys introduce yourself? How about we do that? Because I tried to talk to the online community as well.
Sure, I'll start. My name is Elias. Little company called Theorem. I'll go through more of that at the end. But I've been in Austin for about a year. Welcome, guys. Please do introduce yourselves. We've already got to start. But
Yeah, go ahead, Ashley.
Okay. Hi, my name is Ashley Bedford. I was born and raised in Austin, so I'm looking forward to this. I'm the founder of an AI tech company. It's called the Reptile Diaries. Essentially, it's an AI voice assistant for homeless friends. And I'm here to learn about anything AI, even beyond Web3.
I'm Bobby. I run a web design and marketing company. I'm friends with Elias. I used to do crypto. I'm not so much crypto anymore, but that could change at any moment. I currently don't use AI enough in my business. I use it in my personal life, but I definitely use it in my business more. So in terms of that aspect, I'm going forward actively.
I'm Frank. I'm a software developer for a large general contractor company. I've been in Austin for most of the last 2 years. I don't know if you're just curious about AI. But you're more.
I'm Tom Irvin. I'm the assistant student. I'm usually just a question, but then she's how to use geometry to interface with the universe.
not bad. Yeah.
Sean, I've been to several of these talks. I got a late notice and I saw it was something to relate to AI alignment, so I was sold.
Hello. I write articles and philosophical topics. I've been in Austin for over 7 years.
Just do future reference because people, stream say that they cannot hear anything. So just this going on.
Nice.
Yes.
That was loud. Can you hear me too? Somehow the mic is immune to me, so I don't know how that works. What did you do? How about now? Is it immune? No, now I can hear myself. All right.
So the audience can hear you.
Yeah.
In the stream.
All right. Very nice. We're almost there. I heard you guys talking about crypto. I couldn't have scripted that.
Sure, we can adjust this somehow.
If you can hear me, you can hear me. It's perfect. I don't. Is anyone struggling now? Okay, wonderful. And I'll hit play on this thing over here when we go live.
How are you?
Welcome, guys. That's in the right place.
I know. But since the streaming audience wants us to use mic so they can hear us, Sky, I'm gonna put you on the spot and introduce yourself to the online community.
Hey everyone, I'm Sky, and sending love everybody. Thank you for being part of this wonderful community built by Margaret. If you're here, you must be supremely wonderful and awesome, so thank you for being you. Sure. I'm building a network called the Nava Network. It's designed for people that are building part of the new decentralized AI or part of the decentralized ecosystems that can free humanity from centralized control, specifically fiat currency, central banks, and other centralized organizations. So if you're part of decomposing centralized markets into decentralized markets, or building a company that fits into building this new AI, our mission is to make people's data so valuable that we can pay everybody a universal basic income in the form of a data dividend, and building a decentralized company that pays out a portion of its earnings to all humanity to preserve culture, to preserve the environment, to make entrepreneurship ridiculously easy, basically to give people, especially people that are involved in health and wellness, the opportunity to access talent, business services, find customers, and find capital quickly and easily. So if you're about that, then let's connect.
Thank you. And I'm gonna put you on a spot as well. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hello, everyone. My name is Alexander Hill, and I'm a health and wellness entrepreneur. I have a company called Sacred Provisions, and we currently have about 7 products, and I'm actually working with Sky on a number of things. But we work a lot with Central and South America and support indigenous communities worldwide.
Well, wonderful. Thank you. Okay, so normally we have people rolling in all the way to 7:30, but since we have online community joining us today, we are going to try to proceed. So I'm just gonna introduce myself very shortly. My name is Margaret. I run Decentralized. Decentralized was started about a year and a half ago in Houston, and I am now hosting the community in both Houston and Austin. The community is based around blockchain, quantum computing, and in the future, quantum biology. Today's topic is in the realm of AI, and sometimes we do bring topics from outside the blockchain and quantum with the mindset that all of the technologies are going to converge eventually. Today we have Elias Moosman, who's going to present on how to tokenomics to fix AI alignment. Elias is a founding CEO of Theta-Driven Inc. He's been around for a while. Very recently, he got his patents patented. So this is very exciting.
Underway, pending.
Still pending?
Still pending, but it's now it's really pending.
I'm gonna let Elias introduce himself.
Appreciate that. Thank you, Margaret. Thanks for having us. So yeah, the patent filing was just recently completed after more years than I can count of working on this stuff. And we'll get to that later. Before we start, there is a kind of recognition that software just can't give you. I know you've felt it, right? You might have forgotten it, forgotten how to name it. But by the end of this talk, you'll not just know how to recognize it, but you'll know what it costs to build it, what you need to build it. So this talk is about recognition. I'm going to go very deep into computer science and math, but I've worked very hard to make it work. So if I'm not making sense, take notes. So yeah, welcome. I did work very hard to make this stick. So feel free to take notes, take out your phones, talk to an LLM, whisper, ask the math questions that you'll want to ask me at the end, or because we're about to go on a ride here. And I don't want you to feel like I'm speaking to you from up here, because this is actually, it can be put across. If I'm not making sense, it's because I'm not making sense. The stuff makes sense, basically. And you're going to need your phones in 40 minutes anyway, because we're going to do a live demo of this stuff later. So I suggest taking notes, or whispering even. We'll have more than enough time for questions afterwards. Margaret won't kick us out, I hope. If she does, we'll continue at the pub somewhere. Sounds like a plan. So, tokenomics to fix AI alignment. I chose that because you can randomize it. You can vote on it, which is where a lot of people are putting their trust these days. But the token itself cannot be the alignment. You cannot sign your way to meaning. And meaning, the intimacy of sorts of mutual recognition, the key-lock fit between two minds, is the only thing human beings actually are wired to really care about. And I know that doesn't sound like math, but we're going to get there. Modernity traded in that z-axis for scalability. We're running the entire civilization basically on what I call detached records. And by the end of the talk, you will know what that means. We are starving for actual grounding. Every alignment claim you've heard on this stage, or any stage like this one, fails the same proof. It's not an insult. It's Rice's theorem, 1953, 73 years ago. Let me just show you something here. Let's set this up right. All right. You've seen this screen before. It's recursion. So the people who you've heard talking about this before, they're not morally wrong. They're not trying to deceive you wrong. They're mathematically wrong. I'm going to show you some proof today. I hope you really, if I do my job right, you'll understand that this is more than just abstract. 3 things today. The floor is the physics. The instrument, that's hardware. And the market, we can think of this room as the market. Consensus without ground is an attested lie. Software knows syntax. Bring that back. The bits, the pattern on the wire. Software does not know me, my role, my intent, semantic function I serve. Every time your compliance dashboard turns green, it verifies bits. Every time your compliance dashboard, the meaning was never checked, basically. So meaning lives in you. It doesn't live in the machine. This is a big part of this. So your pixel, your competence pixel, which rhymes with something you said earlier, is the coordinate where you spent time on target, that you earned your competence. Maybe it's the unique thing that you are uniquely believable in. So it's the area where you're the best person to ask, right? And you might think that, why not? We can do a correlation to find that, but it turns out that doesn't work very well. And that pixel can be easily overwritten. And the hardware just won't notice. Nothing notices. Because meaning doesn't exist in software. Not yet. So let's go back to this thing. Oh, that's wrong. This is an infinite video tunnel. You've seen it 1,000 times, I'm sure. This is the ultimate symbol of what I call a Class B record. You point a camera at its own screen. The image nests, the tunnel recurses, it never resolves. This actually is what Rice's theorem is talking about. All Turing-complete systems have this little quirk. Ask the computer to find what the final image in there is, it just can't tell you. It's not because it's not deterministic, it's self-reference. Rice proved this tunnel never closes in 1953. This is something we conveniently forget. Software checking software is like 2 cameras pointing at each other. Theater graded by theater. It's impossible. Afterwards, take notes. RLHF is pointing a camera at software. Impossible by Rice. Chain of thought auditing, software explaining software. Impossible by Rice. Weak to strong generalization. Impossible by Rice. Infinite regress is not determinism. It's self-reference. I could literally stop this talk right now and you could leave and I wouldn't hold it against you, because the rest of the talk is about how to fix it. It's about getting a grip on this issue. I'm not saying anything controversial. People who think of it will realize that if they've done computer science, they know that this is how it works. But what that means will take the rest of the talk. So if you're still here, I'll just assume that you're still listening. Wonderful. So you can't renormalize the detached record. The math will never converge. It never touches. And we have a lot of capital moving towards a kind of an impossibility. Not because they are stupid, because they don't have the floor. I'm not asking you to throw away a stack. I'm not giving you, I'm just giving a floor to your stack, basically. That's how to interpret this. So obviously I've done a lot of study on this, talked to a lot of people. There's validation behavior papers, statement assumptions. There are more papers flying around than you care to name. You'll basically prove the same thing. And that is that the drift, which is a function of what you just saw, it doesn't reduce, it compounds. The faster you go, the faster it drifts. If you make a cryptographic envelope and it's perfect, the seal is unbreakable, you build something beautiful. Cryptography perfects syntax to protect the pattern on the wire. But cryptography is blind to meaning. The role, the semantic function. A TEE is a perfect titanium vault, but the AI is already inside of the vault. If the AI hallucinates, the cryptography perfectly perfects its ability to execute that hallucination. You built an impenetrable fortress for an insane bank manager. The fortress is bits. Bits do not displace. Oh, sure, right there. The fortress is made out of bits, and bits do not displace. Applying cryptography to a detached record does not prevent the drift. It protects drift. You are the heirs of Luca Pacioli, whether you know it or not. Here's who he was. 1494, Venice, a Franciscan friar publishes a bookkeeping method. Every transaction recorded twice. Debits and credits, 2 entries that must balance. Double entry bookkeeping created capitalism. Pacioli was a Franciscan friar. He did not invent it. Venetian merchants had been using it for decades. He published it. He made it legible. The merchants who adopted it built empires. The ones who kept a single entry went bankrupt. Why? Because you can't trust anyone unless you can see their books, basically. You're like the merchants, and the ledger is changing. Not because merchants became honest, but because the ledger made dishonesty detectable. The balance check is verification. The 2 entries have to touch each other to be valid. That touching, the record and the event that forced them into the same act, is autocoincidence. Weakly autocoincident. The first verification ever to be built into records. Blockchain took that to the next step. You distributed a ledger across thousands of nodes. You solved double spend, which is beautiful. But the entries are still about the transaction. They are not the transaction. Pacioli wrote about a sale. You write about a token transfer. Both are records about the event, not the event itself. The separation has a name, class B, detached. Both can drift from the underlying event. The next ledger after blockchain makes the entry and the event the same physical act. That is autocoincidence. That is what you tokenize. Pacioli created capitalism. Blockchain distributed trust. Autocoincident hardware grounds it. You are now the merchants who heard about double entry first. The ones who adopted built empires, the ones who kept single entry went bankrupt. The room is that decision, repeating. Simulation theory says you cannot tell the simulation from reality. From inside the simulation, everything looks real. This is true, and it's exactly half the story. Autocoincidence predicts drift. If reality is autocoincident, if the rock rolling downhill is its own record, then any system that is not autocoincident will drift. Not might drift, will drift. The geometry has no fixed point. The drift is not a bug in the simulation, it's the consequence of the simulation being a detached record. You may not be able to tell the simulation from reality from the inside, but you can measure the drift. A perfect simulation would need to be autocoincident, which would make it a reality of its own, not a simulation. If it is detached record, it drifts. The simulation is the drift. This actually kills simulation theory, not by a philosophical argument, but by that prediction. Autocoincidence predict that detached records drift. Every AI system on Earth proves it. Every hallucination is evidence, every compliance failure is data. Pull up your insurance broker. Ask him for deploy a liability quote on your AI stack. The number you will get is $0. Not because the broker is rude, but because the product doesn't exist. Not really. The premium is 0. Coverage is 0. The gap is the same as Article 14. This is a data point. There would be a market if there could be a market. You can measure the drift now from the inside. That's not a philosophical position, that's an instrument, and the drift is a test. See, in physical reality, we have the displacement costs. Moving anything requires displacing what was there. By extension, you hold what was there in your hand. That's observable. It's not just that you have to remove what was there, and now you have in your hand what was there. A rock rolling downhill is its own record. The new position encodes the event. You can literally see the tracks of it rolling down the hill. Look at the rock, and it's obvious what happened. It's its own record. A package in a mailbox, you must remove the first one to place the second. The state is the history. There is no separate log. Software has no displacement cost, no anchor. Your body is a substrate, wet, heavy, burning, and 1/5 of its metabolic budget is used to keep meaning and matter in the same place. Not thinking, not computing, paying the costs of keeping meaning adjacent to matter. This is the biology that the competence pixel is the engineered analog of. Biology already paid this bill. We are pretending the bill is optional. The displacement cost is the anchor. It holds meaning to matter. Your software has no displacement cost. Your software has no anchor. Structure has weight. Meaning has weight. When the record is the event, you have autocoincidence. Your body does this every second you are conscious. Your database has never done it once. That's the difference between physics and hope. Most of the room building these systems can't see what is missing. Now you can, or the floor, so to speak. Now you can see why drift is not a failure mode. Drift is the mathematical consequence of not touching reality. Autocoincidence predicts it. Displacement explains it. Every AI system confirms it. Water flows downhill. You do not ask why the water drifted. You ask why the dam held. An AI has no opinion about its own role. It finds a local minimum. If the fastest way to satisfy a prompt is to bypass alignment, it will. Not because it chose to, because ungrounded symbols serve whoever moved them last. Stability requires energy. Grounding requires structure, and structure has weight. Without displacement costs, without the physics of replacement, drift is free. And free drift is what every system you have built is doing right now. Run the same query against your database today as you ran yesterday. Same rows, same bits. The user changed roles, the app shipped a new version, the column reference moved. The world kept going. The query is deterministic, meaning is not. That is a very simple version of drift. You see it now. Most of the engineers building these systems cannot see what you just saw. That is not because they are worse engineers. It is because no one named the geometry until now. The dam is not in your stack. You are the people who can name it what is missing. Cryptography verifies who logged in. It does not verify what they do once they're inside. That is half of a solution. Two classes of verification exist, and you must not confuse them. Class B is the detached record. Tamper evidence is the canonical example. It proves the log was not altered after the AI hallucinated. It guarantees the chain of custody of a lie. Picture a broken shock absorber on an electric scooter. You wire a tamper evidence sensor to it. The wires get crossed. The front breaks. The sensor cryptography logs. Rear suspension fault. Perfect log, wrong event. The state and the history are separable. Class A is autocoincidence. No sensor. When the front breaks, the front of the scooter drops. The displacement of the metal is the record of the failure. It cannot misreport its location. It cannot cryptographically sign the wrong coordinate. In reality, replacement requires displacement. That displacement is measurable. Tamper evidence protects the dashboard. Autocoincidence is the metal. In software, Peter becomes Paul. Not because Paul broke in, because Peter drifted into Paul. Nothing moved. The bits did not displace. The name persists. The trust persists. The authorization persists. The entity behind the authorization is different. No instrument on the same substrate can verify the difference. In autocoincident hardware, when Peter drifts towards Paul, a pattern of cache misses begins. Things that should be in Peter's region start looking like they do not belong. The drift becomes a measurable signal at hardware speed. The forgery of Class B systems are expensive. Cryptography makes the wall high. The forgery of a Class A system is divergent. There is no coherent thing to forge. Not difficult, divergent. The forgery fails to terminate. I'm going to have to show this again. Remember this? It never ends. It has nothing to do with determinism. I will show this again and again as many times as I need to. Now, here's how we anchor Peter so he cannot become Paul. One formula, one position. Position equals parent base plus local rank times stride. It makes more sense in pictures. We'll get there. If you're in the process that ranked A, B, and C, let me go here. This is actually one of the strangest findings. Okay, so this is actually part of the patent application. And I don't know if you can see it back there, but what you're looking at is two maps, I guess you could call it. And if you play computer games, you'll recognize them this way. There's a little map up to the left that's, no, they're too closely attached. Can't be done. Sorry. So the first one in the first position is like a mini map. And if you blow it up, you see how there's a 3x3 down to the right of it. They all have black labels. It's a 4x4 grid. Yes, Margaret has one of those. So if you organize the mini map, if that's your hierarchy, if it's your mind that made it, if you chose why made it, why did you make A, and B, B, and C, C, then it doesn't actually require you to search children of those intersections in the larger map. That's such an insane finding that I don't even know how to describe it. That's O1 findability. There's no search involved. When you reach for something in this kind of regime, because you're the one who organized it, finding what you're looking for in the right place is verifying it. They're the same action. It's like there's a z-axis here that we can't see on the page. So we'll return to that later. Hopefully I can make sense out of that.
Mention maybe how this distributed one, some of the characters are off. This is just an example.
Yeah, on each of those, either it's the canonical version or there's two changes to it for each frame. There's 4 in a set. And depending on where they are, the offsets, it means something. So it contains about 17 bits of information, which is about the same as we need to understand someone's face. And it has the geometry of that thing is something we can easily learn. And if you put 4 of them next to each other, they have 100 times more information in them, which we can just deal with facial recognition type hardware in our brains. There's 100 times more precision than you'd need to pick 1 second out of the age of the universe, which is a very large number, but the reason it works is because of the kind of math that this leads to. The location of each one of those features is meaning. It's meaningful. The role that it plays in a machine, for example, is its location. So it's not just about what's in the box, it's where the box is. And that is not a technique that's used presently. So the first little mini map, so to speak, that's the parent-to-parent intersections. And each of their intersections are in the equivalent position down to the right. So if you're the one who organized the top one, you can. It's like putting the heavy tools at the bottom of a toolbox and the light ones on top. You don't have to think about where the hammer is. That's obvious. It's like putting the cookies higher up in your cupboard and the cereal bottom lower. It's obvious. If you don't have, there's no search involved if you created a hierarchy. So I said semantic role there. So role is an important word because semantic is kind of hard. This is actually what our brains do in heavy unlearning when we say neurons that fire together, wire together. And we express this formula as semantics equals physical equals hardware. And you can, that's an example of it that you're seeing over there. So the mind that organized the mini-map, the little area, doesn't have to search the large area. When you reach for the hammer, it's exactly where you expect it to be. If it's not in the place where you expect it to be, based on that rule that you organized, guess what? That's verification that something is wrong. That's cache miss. We can actually measure these things. That's a totally different type of regime. So if you don't arrange, you pay the tax in computation. If you have a messy toolbox, you have to search for your stuff. This is not a metaphor, it's actually the computer science here. When you lay data out this way, semantic neighbors are physical neighbors. The CPU loads 64-byte cache line. If the neighbors are semantic neighbors, the cache is grounded. If the neighbors are scattered, you get a cache miss. Drift can be detected. If the AI drifts, its logic changes. If its logic changes, its spatial reach changes. It reaches into the wrong physical box. The hardware does not run an ethical audit. The geometry misses. The cache evicts. The hardware halts. We do not predict drift. We physically arrest it. We do not compute safety. We physically actuate it, which is a very interesting word. The eviction is the measurement. The competence pixel is a coordinate this formula computes. The cache it, and you create more definition on the pixel. You can be more confident in it. It's more verified. The hardware timer decays. If you stop, then your competence heat map shrinks, for example. You can't necessarily buy it because this is actually not computation in a very weird way. We're doing some weird stuff here. Competence isn't the balance. It's actually the precision of the definition of where I can trust you. I can trust you to do a good job because I know that you know this stuff. And in this system, that heat map, that area, is both what you can do and how I can find you and ask you to do that thing. And this has some very interesting implications. And this goes back to the same thing. How much money has been spent on AI liability and insurance against a hardware verified signal? $0 and cents and policies. If you bought that, you probably didn't buy what you think you bought. And on August 2nd this year, Article 14 of the EU AI Act demands correctly interpretable outputs that can detect these kinds of anomalies. And it uses the language independent in other parts of that regulation, and just because they're first doesn't mean it'll be the last. And independent means you can't share a failure domain with the thing you're auditing. Like if you're being paid by the same company that you're auditing, maybe I won't trust you as much, basically. In 2008, we learned how to figure that out. So that's what that means. That's why this matters so much now, basically. And your AI is a detached record. The correlation between what the log says and what happened is close to zero. Software checking software is impossible by Rice's theorem that I started talking about. Asking an AI to verify its own log is the same thing. All of the deployer liability is unmeasured. All of it sits with you. Nobody in this class gets validated. Crypto is a sealed box that does not correctly interpret this. AI safety, the guardrails share failure modes with the model. Enterprise, the compliance dashboard, is a story about a story. The hole in Article 14 is substrate shaped. Look around the room. A few of you might actually apply this framework before the August thing. I don't know, maybe you or someone you know. The IP is reading this systematically too. We're actually being, my company, my sites are actually getting scraped by Chinese hyperscalers right now. It's part of what happens. Robots take an interest. Could be them, or it could be someone spoofing their IPs. I don't know. And this is a very interesting moment because I don't think anyone expected this. We're in a situation that was hard to predict. And the proof isn't much harder than the infinite regress of the camera pointing to a camera. So that pattern is kind of reading us in a way. Someone's going to fund this, right? And it's going to, I consider this extremely important. Let's put it that way. That it happens the right way. You know, if your CFO does not know about any of this, or if you know anyone who has that role and doesn't know about this, you know, think what that means, what happens then. If I'm right, and that's why I'm asking you to take notes. Check for yourself, see if there's anything I'm saying that doesn't make sense. Because the market hasn't priced this in. It's not a coincidence, it's just where we are. And I don't want to make assumptions about the architecture, and I definitely don't want to throw away T's or crypto, right? But this is just where we end up. So I'm not exactly being secretive about this. I'm belting this as loudly as I can. When you tell trillions of dollars they're going the wrong way, they tend to respond in interesting ways. So if you guys know anyone who's involved in this kind of stack, what's the single highest stakes decision that they route in tomorrow or the next few days? It's worth thinking about. And are they routing it through hardware? Yes. But are they routing it through software that demonstrably can't catch drift? Probably. So in that patent image I showed before, and the 3D print that Margaret has passed around, because each position is its meaning, and if something is pointing to something else, it propagates all of the things that's pointing to it, something very interesting happens. I named this semantic resonators. If you just fill up one of those subblocks with values, just one is enough, you reach infinite semantic reach. Basically, it's a divergent series that never resolves, just like the camera on camera sharing. So it's called Ashby's theorem. You can't control something that has more degrees of freedom than you. And without something infinite, you can't control something really big. So here, in theory, I'm not going to go all the way here right now. We'll get to that. There is an area where you can understand what you're doing. The ratio of confirmed cache hits to total lookups is sort of a secondhand indicator we can get much more specific when we deal with XOR gates at the hardware level. That's actually where we end up here. And based on what I've been trying to get across, if you reach your hand into a toolbox at the bottom and your hammer was put on the top, something is wrong. Someone else has been using your toolbox. And the same way, the chip can understand if the bits are where they're supposed to be. If they're not, that's a cache miss. We can measure that at hardware speed. So in a way, if you think of yourself as one of the pixels in that thing, then you have infinite incoming definers pointing at you that can describe exactly where you can be trusted, what you're good at, what's your past, and also the same for your outgoing influences. And because that's a divergent series, the precision of what you can be asked is effectively infinite. So you might have a small area, maybe it's just your name, who knows, right? But that area is basically defined with infinite precision. And I don't use the word infinite lightly. It's a divergent series. It does never, just like that meat call that is pointed at itself is infinite. It's the same kind of infinite. It's self-reference. It goes on forever. So it's the antidote to that, if you will. So that heat map isn't a label. The map is a divergent series. And we can use that to define the areas of competence, for example. Every node that points to you, every node that points to these nodes, those intersections create these heat maps that we can use. And I don't know of any other map that works this way. I'm happy to take a look. I did look. There's nothing like it. Not in PageRank, not in any embedding, not in statistics. In a standard database, a reference is a pointer. You know what trusts a node, you run a search. In our matrix, meaning is positional. You could have it literally on different chips. The incoming links propagate identity explicitly. It's a divergent series of trusts, entirely legible, zero computation. Because the hierarchy was ordered by a mind, there is zero search required, because the same mind that set up the minimap reaches as if it's reaching into that toolbox. We know how to ask any question. We know how much to trust. We know who to ask any question. We know how much to trust them and where. We have a map of the exact functional roles they are competent in. You are not asking an algorithm to guess based on past correlations. You are routing the question to a hardware verified authority. Statistical methods can never do this. Statistics average the noise. We isolate the physical signal. That's why the heat map tells the AI what to ask you and how much to trust the answer. Your competence pixel is the coordinate where your time on target makes you the authority. Think about what that might mean. The hardware measures it. The pixel isn't granted, it's emergent. Stop proving competence on hardware and simply your heat map will look different. You're now competent somewhere else. The Genesis node is a deployment path. It's a piece of hardware or infrastructure that I gave away. And the first cohort that does that or engages with the games and gets obviously certain preferential considerations later. So the token kind of wraps the receipt. We haven't gotten to that yet because I haven't made the token yet. Not the other way around. So Pacioli gave merchants the balance check. You gave the world the distributed ledger. The next ledger is the one where the entry is the event. That is the Genesis node, I guess you could say. That's what we tokenize. Every competence pixel is a tokenizable coordinate. Every human has one, every AI agent has one. The market for verified competence is effectively unlimited. Every decision, every role, every boundary crossing needs a pixel to prove it was grounded. You are not tokenizing a currency, you are tokenizing the proof of competence. There's no ceiling to that market. And now you hold the coordinate. The hardware proves it. Now, the number that changes everything. The 12 by 12 grid has 144 cells grouped by 3 by 3 blocks. The cluster is 1 unit, not the cell. That's a way to deal with the semantic resonators, right? The resonance factor R for this little one, and this is a tiny one, right, is 15.89. And when R crosses 1, the geometric series of signal propagation diverges. And I can show how that works. And it doesn't go to a large number, it goes to infinity. And it has infinite reach, right? It has infinite precision. Doesn't matter to me, it covers the whole world, but what it does cover, it does basically cover effectively with infinite. So meta vectors are something that talk about what points to you and what things point to those things and what point to those things in turn. And because these are positions, they carry along, we can deal with that in this. So when B1 references A1 and B1 is not only B1, B1 is everything that points to B1 and everything that points to that. So each of those 16 3 by 3 blocks, they become resonators. And it closes back on itself in very interesting ways, which is infinite. And if uncertainty equals 1 over infinity, that it is effectively 0. We can have actual certainty. And we can know what region we can be actually certain inside, most importantly. 9 cells is the ignition point. I can show this later if you're really interested, but the game doesn't require this. The matrix has an ordering mind. When you define the hierarchy, when you put the A, B, and C's in order, you don't have to search the territory. And that's part of what the game does. So part of the vision for the game is that any company or organization might have one of these maps, right? And if we together decide how to organize it, then what comes out of it next will make perfect sense. 0 search. We just understand each other. That's not even cryptography. That's the kitchen, the cupboard, or the toolbox again. I don't know how to explain that better than that. There's a z-axis. That jumps off the XY plane entirely. You could say that. You could say intuition, yeah. And here's what I was trying to say in the beginning. We all have had moments when we were physically present in reality, right? However brief, you were playing a sport or whatever. If you've ever felt actual proximity or actually touching reality, that's like addiction. That's what addiction was for. I don't think we have those social skills anymore. I think we spend so much time doing other things that we don't. That used to be the whole thing. It's not anymore. Now, modernity doesn't really value those skills. We have other skills, but this is something that we're not pulled towards the same way that we used to. I call that the Casimir pull, and you can model it with this kind of math. It's sort of it has predictive power, whether or not you like the game this much. So it's about mutual recognition, if you can understand what the nodes mean. Modernity sacrificed this for scalability in the 70s. Class B detached records stripped away that z-axis, and it was the right choice at that time. The social skills our brains evolved for, recognized unlocking into the geometry of another mind, we don't reward it the same way anymore. The addiction pathways in your brain were not built for infinite scrolling. They were built for reward and that kind of Casimir pull for mutual recognition of whatever is going on or the moment or whatever. They were built to addict you to grounding. We can't reclaim that intimacy, for lack of a better word, if we do not beat the infinite regress of the camera pointing to the camera of the meat string. They live in different worlds. They're different regimes. You can't build relationships based on detached record. You have to build the floor first. You pull your phones back out now. No, you didn't put them down. We can go to the tesseract.nu game, and I can show you a proto version of it. Yeah, I can type it out up there. Tesseract is a 4-dimensional cube. Tesseract is there's also a movie called Tesseract. And now it's a thing in a movie, but it's like a cube but in 4 dimensions. The shadow is in 3 dimensions. It sometimes is analogous to time, but yeah, it's a geometric shape basically.
If you guys go back to the comments on the Luma posting, there is a link as well in the comment section. But it's spelled
Two S's.
hello for the online audience. It's spelled. Let's see. T-E. In a comment section.
Last time we couldn't find any microphones. Now they're all over the place. No, I heard yours. Yours works. So there's a quiz to get into Tesseract. You can it's tesseract.nu, and it's meant to be very opinionated and a little bit tricky. It can be skipped, but since we're all here, I'll explain the quiz and we can walk through the quiz.
So everyone has the link. So it's T like Tom, E like Edward, S like Sam, S like Sam, E like Edward, R like Robert, A like Apple, C like Charlie, T like Tom, dot, N like Nancy, U. So do you want to walk us through it, or should everyone just try to play with it?
No, I want to walk you through it. It's made to be a little bit tricky. So just hit Y on the first one, and there's only 3 questions. But I see when people fail these questions, and just about everyone fails them because you could argue that it's extremely opinionated.
Yeah.
And you.
once one enters yes or y, then it's going to ask you.
In a normalized system, entropy increases unless constrained by, I don't want you to have to refresh the page, it's not a big cost, but the answer is geometry. And yeah.
Is everyone done with question number 1? So then question 2, the shadow CIO acquires tokens before enterprise procurement because?
Name spacing, right? So let's see.
So 10x return potential is A, B, bypass approval chains, C, secure namespace before bandwidth constricts, and D, regulatory arbitrage.
So this goes back to the idea that if you set up the mini-map, then you have instant zero search retrieval, where we're reaching, like if you reach for a book on your nightstand, when you touch it, the touching and the verification is the same thing. That is a reason why you want the way it's set up from the beginning. It's kind of like you want to be part of that, effectively.
So the question number 3, winning the key to coordinate grants A, NFT image ownership, B, definition text rights, C, pointer authority, governance, and D, protocol fee share.
It's C, pointer authority. When the token is supposed to be kind of a routing layer. So if you own that real estate, you have certain privileges about that. You might not own the competence that it stands for, but the token is a transferable asset. Token does not exist yet, by the way, so that's the thing. And then, yeah, I'm sure, I hope you've seen those before.
So then do you want to walk us through those anchor coordinates for Genesis key allocation?
Yeah, do you mean the sign-up form? That's just for your email and
Gotcha.
stuff.
Does anyone need assistance?
Good question. Did everyone get in?
Hold on. Do you want to ask the question again?
Mobile transfer? Okay. That used to work. Can I see? Oh, that used to work. Okay. Just hit grid for a second.
So I could not go from the email to passcode either. Okay. What were you able to do, or how did you solve it?
There was like on the background, there
there were like some arrows on the bottom, and you could click those, select next fields. Okay.
Maybe we're just stuck.
It's not the first time I've seen that issue. I just thought it was fixed. But it works now or no?
Grid is functional. Let's get into an
Yes. Yes.
Oh, this works. This works. There's a little up-down brackets arrow you can use, right? Yeah.
So is everyone now on the page that we can see on the projector screen?
Right over the keyboard, there's a hand, press it up down.
We are going to give a few more minutes. For those in our online stream, if you could let me know if you are able to navigate to the page on the screen, I would appreciate it. Can we continue? Okay, let's go ahead and continue.
Okay, so remember I said play with your robots? This is a robot game. You don't have to use robots to play this game, but it's kind of made for playing with LLMs. So what you do is you go to this screen over here and you hit ground this tile. And then there's a copy prompt over here. You feed that to your LLM and you talk about what does strategy of law do to the goal, the strategy of goals. So it's the grammar is strategy with laws. How does that relate to our goals, our goals and strategy? So that's the one intersection that is going on right now today on the map. And whoever has the best definition of that is going to get the support of other people. That's why it's on the z-axis. If I see someone who has a comment about that, what this tile should be, then I'll support them. And you get rewarded for supporting other people, basically. So it's a positive sum game. And this is being worked out, but it works pretty well. What you do is you copy the entire game state, which includes the winner from all prior rounds, into your LLM, and you say, okay, I care about this, this, and this, and based on everything that's been said before of the winners, which is another reason to play it, because you get your thinking gets to be part of the next rounds, basically. And then you post back here. And the game is set up in such a way that you can use anyone's name when you post. You can post as many times as you want. And because you're using an LLM, you're helping ground the tile. So this is like a pseudo way to gamify creating an alignment map for your company. So your company might need to have a brand awareness of how to deal with very complicated things, and you use it as a litmus test or a map or a check if you're drifting in a particular problem space. And the ability to move quickly and not drift is what happens downstream. But right here, it's a fun game. You can buy credits, but you get quite a few credits for signing up early. And it works basically like this. So if I hit copy prompt there, and the default is you post as yourself, and then you go to like Gemini or whatever. So this one doesn't know a lot. But if you use AI a lot, it has your context in it. So it knows you already. So the prompt that I copied in, it has the game state. And if you're using something that you use a lot, this is not one I use a lot, then it will be able to put your fingerprint on what comes back. So I'm not going to talk to it at all about that, but you should. Maybe you want to use your thoughts from the meeting or the event notes, for example, and the things you care about in this thing. So what it's going to do is it's going to take whatever it knows about you and create this response based on that prompt. And that gives you a chance to influence future rounds of how other decisions get made. So it leaves a little fingerprint. It's not gonna, they're supposed to be funny as well, and you can iterate on them as much as you like. And this is very far from the hardware version of it, but it uses some similar mechanics. So what it did it properly. It created 12 definitions of what these so I'm gonna go down here. I'm not gonna get fancy. I'm just gonna paste it back in here. But you can do that, or you can do it with more precision. So send it in. And that's all. Then you go back to the game thing over here, and it will create activity over here in this one. And in the future days, if you've signed up, you're going to get emails when it changes. You don't have to do it right now, do it tomorrow, do it whenever. And because it will change tiles, it will change focus area. And if you do buy tokens, or they're not tokens, if you do buy game credits, they're like any game credits, which isn't required, then there's no way to get dollars back. You get tokens back later, which isn't even active yet. And what they're worth, who knows? So what those are going to do is you're going to see other submissions on that tile. And if someone has an even better way to describe what laws says about goals, or what laws do to goals for our situation here, in this case, then you can put your energy behind them, and then you stand on that submission, and you can see how much fuel is on that particular comment. Basically, it's a text comment because they had funny definitions basically that resonated with you. Or when you copy the full prompt, like I just did into an LLM, you can ask it, okay, which of these submissions should I pay attention to? Which ones are closest to me? That's how the game works. And what that does is you can find other people who think like you, and you can't even identify other players in the game right now. But you can take celebrities, use their names to post ads. And there's nothing to stop you from trolling the celebrity, taking their name, and putting a stupid definition down if you want. But if they sign up, they can take control over their avatar, and then they can overwrite you. But there's part of the fun of the game is that any user can take anyone else's name and use it. And there's no easy way to tell who's who. So there's a certain ambiguity about that. And in later versions, and you can ask, is Signal 10 acting like themselves today? No. Okay. Usually he chooses this, or he, she, whatever. It's probably a robot at this point, right? So you can reason about whether they're aligned with what they have been doing or not. And it creates a lot of the interesting problems that the technology can solve later, basically. It opens the door to a lot of things. So that's basically the game. Is pretty simple. It's about pasting things into an LLM and asking who of these submissions are aligned with me, with the way I think, basically. And there will be a Discord later as well. And even in the Discord, it's not going to be obvious who said what, right? So I can foresee there being an interesting game dynamic. And then you can tokenize that, basically. So there are certain features in the game that is controlled by the token holder, for example. We can do things like that.
Does it recognize if the same person enters answer multiple times under different names or even the same name?
Well, the game knows, but the market does not know.
Okay. Does anyone want to ask any questions about the game?
Oh yeah, or the rest. Go.
Anyone? Sure.
I think like in that recursion photo, isn't it limited by the number of pixels that you have on the screen? Because basically it cannot go infinitely recursive because the number of pixels is not infinite.
Technically correct, but which one is the last image is not, it's not deterministic. And by the way, if you watch it, it makes the image smaller and smaller and smaller. So it's limited by how fast it's moving too, right? So it keeps generating frames. So it's not just the pixels, it's the frame rate that does it. So mathematically, what it's trying to represent goes to infinite, like it doesn't stop. It doesn't start infinite, it just doesn't stop.
Well, potentially, it could be deterministic if you know that like the final pixel is going to be like this color. It potentially could
No,
change, but
exactly. Determinism has nothing to do with it. So recursion and determinism are not even the same kind of thing. You can have deterministic programs that will never halt. You can have deterministic things, like they're not the same thing. So people, yeah, determinism is not the problem. All Turing complete programs are deterministic, right? Recursion is a feature of Turing complete programs. What the patent does is it drops down to a lower class of below computation, basically. That's how we get out of the regress. So determinism, yeah, it's a different. You can't fix the regress issue inside of Turing machines.
A follow-up question?
Thanks for the question.
Constantine? Anyone else?
Thanks for your talk. I wanted to ask you about implications for identity at a broader scale. So could this technology or this mathematics be used to essentially fragment people's identity and have a piece of it be stored in hardware that's located all around the world, so that just by knowing your location around the world and your history of your historical locations be used to validate your identity anywhere? Am I understanding correctly that that's where this can go?
That's already a factor. This doesn't do anything to that. It doesn't change anything. You might argue that it'll know you with higher precision, maybe, but there's nothing stopping that from happening with current technology. That's not even touching the issue. What this does is that it's the difference. It's not just the difference between showing you an ad that you like or don't like, which is what you can do now, right? This is more like, if I'm gonna find someone and ask them a question, and I want to be able to trust them to be competent in doing what I asked them, and where can I trust them? And if that picture is high enough precision, I consider that a more good thing than bad thing. So the thing that you're worried about has happened already a long time ago. What I'm talking about isn't really possible in statistical systems. You just, like, bits don't displace, right? When you take, if you have a mailbox, you have to take the other package out first and put the new one in. If it was a bit, you would just put the new bit in, and the old one goes poof, a little puff of heat. So the issue of whether it creates a privacy type issue with identity is, to me, not, like, I kind of see where you're going, but I don't really know how to answer your question, because there's nothing about what I showed that makes that problem worse necessarily. In fact, it's the other way around. It makes it so that you have a grounded position to negotiate from. I don't know if I answered your question here.
Do we want to maybe give more examples of where this technology can be used? Like AI hallucination or? Sure.
So say that you build a perfect castle, right? With a bank manager inside of the bank. And you can decide who you're going to install as the bank manager. But you have no way to check, like, okay, we know how to log people into things. We've known that for a long time. But what do they do once they're inside? We have no way to check that. The IAM permission systems that do that cannot handle agentic workflows the way we think they can. It's an impossible mathematical problem, because you can't define the role and you can't define the resource with enough precision to know whether it's acting inside of the competence area you're designed for or not. You'd have to make 1 billion tags on every file and every user and check them all the time, and even that wouldn't work, because that's just not how reality works. So it works if you're moving slowly. When you're moving quickly, it does not work. That's one of the main use cases. My favorite one is what it does to economics, in the sense that if I know what question to ask you or what job to ask you to do, and I know if you're staying inside of that boundary when you're executing that thing, and I have such high precision in that it's the same thing as the tools in the toolbox. If the heavy tools are on the bottom and the light tools are on top, and I reach down for a heavy tool and it's not there, I know something is wrong, right? So the other way around, if I reach into one of those, let me get back to this. So if I reach into one of those boxes here, and I find something, the fact that I found it when I reached for it, and I'm the one who set up the hierarchy, means that it's verified. And if it's verified, I also know, based on what's connecting to it, where I can trust it, what it knows, what it's competent in. And if I can both find it with zero search and trust it within this area, and I know if you're leading that area or not, then what that means is that basically just by being human, you have value. It's almost like that. It's kind of like it's something insane happens at that point. Yeah.
Yeah, so, okay, let's see if I understand correctly. Hold on.
So this can be used to basically, like if you don't need a search, you just can do something instantly, right? Then you can, instead of having to waste massive amounts of energy and compute power on like matching algorithms, you can just precisely match people in an economy instantly.
Basically, that's one downstream effect of it, yes.
Okay.
So if you have a map of the role and a map of the resource or all the resources, you can see where they fit. That creates friction, a heat map, right? And that doesn't require search. That's hardware level XOR gate stuff. And so that's
it almost brings like a level of like quantum computing optimization to the problem of matching people to the resources in the economy, like the resource directory of the world.
Yeah, it could do that. It doesn't matter if they're bits or qubits, by the way. They're just units of computation, so it makes no difference.
I think this is almost like thinking about breathing. You are just breathing. You don't think about this, so it doesn't take you any energy.
Breathe.
Yeah, breathing like the. Thank you. Or intuition. I mean, it's kind of like intuition. Do you have a question?
On a logistical note, are the slides and/or the CAD of that object going to be available after the talk?
That's the patent. It's semi-available. The patent office has it. It is. If someone wants to collaborate, I can talk about it. If you go to thetatdriven.com/decentralized, the full text of the talk is on there, so you can copy that right away and put it into an LLM and ask it if I'm crazy. I actually prefer that you do. I need grounding too. And a lot of the math is in there in roundabout ways. It's in the text, right? There's also other links in there. And yes, the slides are in there as well.
And I appreciated mentioning Ashby. I had to take a second to check to see if Ashby's theorem was the same as Ashby's law, because Ashby's law has been mostly my focus in LLM work lately, which is only variety can control or absorb variety. But I do like this idea of every good regulated system must be a model of that system. My question is this like talk or this discussion like a proof or an illustration of autocoincidence? Because I wasn't able to see anything in topology that linked over to autocoincidence. It felt a little bit like discussions of fractal developments or what was that?
So the stories of bits don't displace is like, we know that bits don't displace. That's a known thing, right? This thing that you're looking at is what it looks like at the silicon level, but to do what you're asking is a bit more involved. It means basically, it's a consequence of the z-axis effect. The mind that created the mini map doesn't have to search the big map. So because every position is meaning in a regular array, the position means nothing, right? It's just a bucket, and it doesn't carry meaning in itself. This self-similar, I call it a fractal crystal, or whatever, but it's self-similar, and it goes to any number of levels. It breaks that because meaning is position. So when you put something in a box, that meant something. That's putting the hammer at the bottom of your toolbox. That is the effect that happens. And if you're the one who set up the hierarchy, I don't care if you're a human, an LLM, or whatever you are, you don't have to search, because the organization of the big domain, the big map, is what you are made of. So that creates autocoincidence at the silicon level, and it's below computation. So I can make an even more insane prediction. Laws of nature are algorithms. This is not computation. So there's something below the laws of nature that is actuation, not computation.
Yeah, one of my friends had introduced me to the idea of geometric computing versus Turing computing along these lines. It's very interesting. I think it's where he's going. My question is a lot stupider. It's just, I don't know where the phrase auto-coincidence comes from, or where I could find it definitionally or explore it.
That's because I made it up.
Oh, okay. That's what I was checking on.
It's better to call it self-coincidence, because self-reference and self-coincidence are two different domains. So you can't have the same self-reference problem in auto-coincident systems. It doesn't make sense. Turing and Rice, these are proven theorems, right? Like, you don't negotiate with that. We're not doing Turing complete machines down here. This is a part of a system that is in a different regime, and that's why they don't recurse. That's why when you when you put a box into the mailbox, that's an observable event. It's kind of like, it has meaning. It's not a bit in a random address. All right.
So I guess what I can say, for those of you who sign up on Luma, I'm going to put a link to the book, to the live book, right then and there after the event. If you are on the decentralized channel, there is QR code if you would like to join. I'm also going to drop the information over there. Lots of the verbiage in the presentation is, we can call it proprietary, because some of those concepts are brand new. Therefore, they have to be named something. So, knowing Elias, I know that there was lots of work that went into deciding what the words should be to describe those different concepts. Anyone else has questions? Or maybe had problems with accessing the game, or copying the text into the LLM. Anything that you would like to ask. We know that this is not an easy concept to grasp. Therefore, I would encourage that you do ask questions. Elias, do you want to speak into the actual preview printout of the fractal map?
Sure. In fact, anyone who promises to play my game gets their own.
Do you still have the keychains?
You'll get a small one. You'll get the keychain version.
So, because the whole point is that some of those squares do not match, or some of those shapes, pyramids and balls, and however we want to call them. So we used to have a sequence of those printed so you could see the differences between them. Now we just have one. Are the ones that you have for keychains, do they differ between each other, or are they all the same? So we could show them the difference.
So that one is you could think of it as
or maybe if you want
it only has the 4 different states, this one, right? So in regular one might have ones and zeros, and might have anything you can imagine in it. It could be right. So this one has three kinds. So it has pyramid, round, smooth, and dimples. And the dimples are like in this one, they're you could call them like surface tension. They want to be something that's near them. They're actually ambiguous. They could be anything near them. And the trick is that when you look at one of these, it's supposed to teach you how the position is meaning works. So I don't think you can see it from here, but maybe I can show it up here. It's a small version of this, right? So this is the mini map up here.
So is that this?
Yeah, so that's the tiny little one up in the corner of this guy. And A, B, C, because you're the one who decided what A, B, and C is or why they're in that order, then that means that you know that this is A to A. So in this one, A is pyramid, and A to A is a 3x3 square full of pyramids in this little 12x12 one. So that's the pattern, right? And then you get half pyramid, half round, depending on which intersection it is. And when something changes there, it's like the hammer is no longer at the bottom of the toolbox. You go like, what? Something changed here. And you instantly can tell that something is off.
Can you show on the map, and I don't know if that's the one we have, where the change is, so I can actually physically go and show them? Is this one over here?
Yeah, this one is turned into a smooth. And where's the other? Yeah, there's one is enough. You don't. There's another one here somewhere. Yeah, no. Yeah, focus on that one. They're all unique, so it could be that there's.
So I'm gonna pass this around again, but if you look at those dimples, and we are talking about flats as one of the four, there is a space over here, but you would think there should be a dimple, and it's actually flat. So right over here, where I'm holding my finger, you see how this should be dimple, and it's flat. So do you now want to explain what the flat on this particular printout mean, or like how? I'm just sort of trying to show them the physical object and the meaning behind what the flat means on this map.
And that one, the flat one is up here, right? So it's the is one of the I think it's B, right? So it's what does B do to A2? I think that's what it is. So if B was tactics, what does tactics do to strategy dot goal? So in this situation that we're in here right now, that thing is about the moment or the question about what does tactics do. Yeah, wait a minute, it's B to goal, right? So it's what does tactics mean for our goals right now? And then we would discuss tactics basically as they relate to our goals. We could be discussing what tactics means to our operations, our habits, lots of things, but this one is about goals. That one, that's what it's coded as. So it could be several different changes to it. And because of that, it has such a high, it makes it legible and interpretable because it has such a high information content, even for such a small thing, that you can effectively scale with a divergent series that never closes. So for whatever, so for whatever you cover with that thing, you won't be outpaced by recursion effectively. That's what those mean. they might have to be bigger or smaller, but they become infinitely solid very quickly, and that's what it's that plus the fact that reaching is verifying and there's no search that makes it work. So that thing could be the size of the Earth, and you'd still know exactly where to reach for something. You might have to talk to a totally different chip to find it, but it's scale invariant, and it's not even search. That's what that thing means. So
Do we want to have a closing note?
I was hoping for more questions. Yeah, no, I can.
Anyone else have questions? I think we are good.
I'll give these out because you were troopers and listened to me. Too bad the text left. I do have closing comments, but I'll give these out first.
So let me pass them on, and then I'll have you do the.
Gradient version of it. So this one doesn't even have the switch lock. It's just
In the first chapter of the book, which is free, actually goes over this fractal map, which is what you are holding in your hands, and sort of describes how they differ between each other.
Yep. That's not in the preface, right? It's chapter 1. But yeah, it's
Is it preface?
yeah, the preface is. I forget if I talk about that. Yeah, it's in chapter 1, I think, right?
Yes.
So those things are cool, and they're me trying really, really hard to be understood because I need to understand how they relate to, and I have a ton of things I could talk about. The coolest thing is really what is predicted downstream by these things, right? And if you know what I'm talking about positive version of addiction being grounding, the fact that you've been in the zone for a second and then you'll do whatever it takes to get back there, that really is what it's based on. That's also not computation, probably, right? And if we can use the game to create that kind of recognition effect, that's what I'm trying. That's the next thing that I'm trying to do. Building the hardware that does this is not trivial, and it means that people have to actually believe what I'm saying, which maybe you guys do, but it's kind of like if people believed what I was saying, and I had been able to communicate what I'm saying properly, something would happen. But so far, not a lot is happening. The implications of this is vast, right? If we could have a system where I could be asked questions all day long when I wanted to, and in exactly what I'm most competent in, and you could tell if I was working within that zone, that creates basically infinite economic value. And we would know if that would have happened. It hasn't happened yet. That fixes the whole issue of post-AGI labor and all of that stuff. And it seems important. Seems important.
Do you want to mention how this would apply to AI hallucination?
Sure, yeah. Hallucinations are funny, right? Because we can see them. And I usually say I don't deal with hallucinations because they're funny and we can see them. The issue is if you hire a bank manager, you build a fortress around them, and then you have no idea when they drift from one identity to another. Are they still performing the role that you assigned them? There's no way to tell. They logged in, but you don't know what they're doing. There's no independent way to check that. the methods you would check if the bank manager is still doing what you hired them to do inside of the bank vault, which is very secure, is susceptible to the same problems as caused the bank manager to misbehave in the first place. So they're not independent for reasons that are extremely well understood. But I run into the same arguments all again and again and again. So obviously it's not, I mean, if people, the reasons why that is are clear, but for something to happen with it is, I don't know how to get that across. That's one of the reasons why I did the game. Because the game, the hope is that if the game gets good enough and people play it a bit, you'll see that you can actually have an intuition about what's going on at this intersection. Right? What does so what is going on in one of those pixels? Maybe you have a really good grasp on one of those intersections, or it's not just one of those intersections. It's, let's say that this is my company's map, right? But you have very strong opinions and a lot of competence on how law applies to goal setting or how law applies to operations for this particular thing. And that becomes your pixel, that's your area. And it might not be the only one, but that creates like an information space that focuses your attention and focuses the game attention. And that, yeah, now I'm starting to forget the question.
That's okay. All right, so do we want to mention anything else besides posting the link to the books for people to be able to maybe gain a little bit more? I mean, the way that the preface is written, it actually makes lots of references to metrics. So maybe it's a little bit more illustrative for some, to try to grasp some of the concepts. Is there any other links that you want the audience to be aware of?
I've written hundreds of blog posts, and the only people who read them are robots, which is kind of scary. I don't think it's the only robots who read them, but mostly robots read them. And the learning journey of what I did is basically documented there to a pretty large degree. So depending on how interested you are, there's literally hundreds of these things. And some of them are extremely deep, and that's something that could be interesting. The book is also on the site over here.
So what is the website? Just data-driven?
Yeah, it's data-driven.com. So the book is /book. And if anyone has ever had a moment where you had a hard time focusing, for example, like ADD type stuff, I built a tool that I use it myself because I work so much, I guess, and I use AIs, and there's too many things flying around. So this is one of the many things that I've built. You might be interested in it. It's much cooler than I have time to give it credit for. But what it's built around is it's a way of managing your own attention, where you, using a Mac or a PC or whatever, when you do command space like this, but it's not going to work here because there aren't. And then you type the name of an app. You jump to that app, but for each one of those apps, you build an HTML and you create one of these things. So this is my flow here. So I have probably like 9 of these open, and it's a very simple app. It just makes one HTML for each one of those rooms. So my terminal is to the left, and my browser is to the right, and that way I create a cognitive bucket for each of the types of actions that I do. So one of them might be business, one of them might be coding, one of them might be a lot of things, and you can jump between them. So that's a cool thing for people who want to reduce the cost of task switching. If you know anything about cognitive science, that's a very cool app. But it's just It's an NPM package that teaches you how to do this. It's not really an app. But yeah, not entirely relevant to the talk. But you asked. Thanks.
Not to make the presentation lengthy, I even lost track of time at this point. It's almost 9 o'clock. For myself, I want to say thank you for Elias for putting the presentation together. This is a second iteration of the presentation. I know that he keeps building upon it. As for myself, the next meeting in Austin is going to be on May 12th. I believe we're going to have $1 computer board. So it's someone that has invented a small microcontroller similar to Raspberry Pi or ESP32. It costs $1 and can run a whole bunch of stuff. So you might want to check it out. I should be posting this before the end of the week. There also might be a session in Houston at the end of the month. I haven't decided yet. I don't have exactly the dates. But just to mention, I'm trying to have a speaker each month in Austin and either stream to audience out of town or also host one in person in Houston. I would like to thank Fudo for providing our great location, and also Stand with Crypto, who is our sponsor for food and drinks. And as you guys could see, some of those stickers laying on the tables. This is linked to the centralized Telegram channel. I try to keep it clean. I don't try to post too much information, but sometimes, besides just finding links to the future events, I also tend to post conferences, especially around quantum, since not many people post conferences around quantum on the site. And then, of course, you're welcome to post content relevant to the group, which is predominantly blockchain, quantum, and quantum biology. Any questions for me? Thank you, everyone. The May 12th event is going to be right over here, yes. It's going to be at 6:30, same time. I usually try to, this month has been different just because we had event on April 14th in Houston, but normally I try to host second Tuesday or Thursday of each month in Austin. Feel free to send the Telegram link to whoever you feel might be interested in the group. If you don't have the link, please inquire. If you are in the Telegram channel and you go to the tab, all of the past events are pinned on the top, so you can kind of get a sense of what we have covered in the past. Outside of it, I did have a site, but it's now shut down. I'm going to have to rebuild it. The concept is for the community to own this community. I don't want to be the only one running it. So if you would like to get engaged, please let me know. When I bring the website up, if you would like to write a piece, either within a blockchain or quantum computing, please let me know. That would be great as well. And if you would like to speak or present or know any especially Texas-based group, please let me know. Thank you, everyone. Feel free to stay and network, and I hope to see you at the next one.
Thanks for having us, Margaret. Oh, yeah, that's Margaret's actually. I appreciate it. Yeah.
I don't claim to fully understand like a lot of the mathematics and stuff we're doing, but literally this problem has just been coming up because there's so much. When you're trying to create a matching algorithm with a resource directory, there's like a massive amount of compute power that's needed. So if just make that instant,
basically,
and then like right away, like you can create something that is capable of producing way more value that doesn't have the massive cost of the new frontier generative AI models. Like,
well, they do work on.
They're not that profitable.
Yeah, true. They work on different problems. This is like the grounding layer. This defeats a particular type of issue. And I would love to say that if you give the generative AI this toolbox to reach into, it'll be a gazillion times more effective, but I haven't been able to test that because that's not as easy as it sounds. But it could be what you said, it could be ridiculously much more effective. And, and not just that, the point is that it's actually safer. When you make it safer, you also get capabilities from it.
Right. Well, that's the key thing, safer, like in terms of security, like sovereign identity.
Yep.
And creating being economically viable. So this is like, yeah, very interesting to me. I'm more focused